Today we'll be talking about Chapter 6, International Management. The learning objectives for this chapter are: 1. Discuss what integration of the global economy means for individual companies and their managers. 2. Describe how the world economy is becoming more integrated than ever before. 3. Define the strategies organizations use to compete in the global marketplace. 4. Compare the various entry modes organizations use to enter overseas markets. 5. To explain how companies can approach the task of staffing overseas operations. 6. Summarize the skills and knowledge managers need to manage globally. And 7. Identify ways in which cultural differences across countries influence management. A few years ago, Lenovo was barely known outside of China, but today it is the first Chinese global consumer brand, according to the Wall Street Journal. Lenovo and HP are in a close race to be number one in personal computers, and it is advancing in the smartphone market as well. Selling computers in China's huge and fast-growing market gave Lenovo the capital it needed to expand. After a Western manager stumbled at the head of Lenovo's laptop business, the company turned to Yang Yuanqing, a former salesperson who had risen through the ranks, and Lenovo co-founder Louis Shanzhu. They developed the strategy of selling first in fast-growing markets like China, India, Russia, and Brazil, and then using those revenues to enter countries with established markets. Lenovo's strategic challenge is whether the products and processes that enabled it to meet the needs of developing economies will translate well to the needs of consumers in other parts of the world. In today's economy, there aren't separate markets based on country economies, but one marketplace where an organization's customer, employee, and suppliers could be located anywhere. I once owned a inkjet refill business that was located in a very successful computer repair store in the Cincinnati area. Only 25% of the owner's business came through his front doors. That's right, 75% of the business came from outside of Cincinnati, including markets like Australia, Vietnam, and Japan. One of the key reasons for global economies becoming more integrated is the minimizing of trade barriers. Even though the world's economic output has grown, the volume of exports has grown even faster. A second consequence has been increased foreign investment overseas, especially to less developed growing countries. A third consequence is that even the world's larger economies are importing more and more products. For example, the United States imports more than it exports. The global economy is now dominated by countries in three regions: Western Europe, Asia, and North America. First, let's talk about Europe unification. The Europe Union allows goods, services, capital, and human resources to flow freely across national borders of countries in Europe. This unification creates a more competitive Europe. It is important that the United States remains vigilant to ensure that a united Europe does not close itself to U.S. goods and services. We all know Japan dominated world attention toward the end of this last century. However, China has now surpassed Japan and Mexico, becoming America's second largest trading partner, only behind Canada. Currently, the trade imbalance is concerned with China, as U.S. exports to China were less than $100 billion in 2011, but imports were 4 times as high. North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA, is an economic pact that combined the economies of the United States, Canada, and Mexico into the world's largest trading bloc. Industries that have benefited in the short run include capital goods suppliers, manufacturers of consumer durables, grain producers and distributors, construction equipment manufacturers, the auto industry, as well as the financial industry. Well, as far as the rest of the world, the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America comprise a major share of the world's natural resources and are among the fastest growing economies. One of the most critical tasks a manager faces is to identify the best strategy for competing in a global marketplace. The international manager has 4 strategies to choose from depending on how globally they want to integrate and also how responsive they want to be on a local level. The first is the international model, which is designed to help companies exploit their existing core capabilities to expand into foreign markets. The advantage of this model is that it facilitates the transfer of skills and know-how from the parent company to subsidiaries around the globe. One disadvantage of the international model is that it does not provide maximum latitude for responding to local conditions. The multinational model uses subsidiaries in each country in which the company does business and provides a great deal of discretion to those subsidiaries to respond to local conditions. One advantage of allowing local responsiveness is that there is less need for coordination and direction from corporate headquarters. A major disadvantage of this model is higher manufacturing costs and duplication of effort. The global model is designed to enable a company to market a standardized product in a global marketplace and to manufacture that product in a limited number of locations where the mix of costs and skills are most favorable. Companies that adopt the global model tend to become the low-cost players in any industry. On the downside, because a company pursuing a purely global approach tries to standardize its product and services, it may be less responsive to consumer tastes and demands in different countries. The transnational model is an organization model characterized by centralization of certain functions and locations that best achieve cost economies, basing other functions in the company's national subsidiaries to facilitate greater local responsiveness, and fostering of communication among subsidiaries to permit transfer of technological expertise and skills. A distinguishing characteristic is the fostering of communications among subsidiaries. Achieving such communications across subsidiaries requires elaborate formal mechanisms such as transnational committees staffed by people from various subsidiaries who are responsible for monitoring coordination among those subsidiaries. These organizations transfer managers among these locations on a regular basis. Achieving coordination among subsidiaries requires that the head office play a proactive role in coordinating their activities. When considering global expansion, international managers must decide on the best way to enter an overseas market. The 5 basic ways are exporting, licensing, franchising, joint venture, and wholly owned subsidiaries. Most manufacturing companies begin global expansion as exporters and later switch to one of the other modes for serving overseas market. Licensing is an arrangement whereby a licensee in another country buys the rights to manufacture a company's product in its own country for a negotiated fee. Franchising is used primarily by service companies. The company sells limited rights to use its brand name to franchisees in return for a lump sum payment and a share of the franchise's profits going forward. Joint ventures benefit a company through the local partner's knowledge of the host country's competitive conditions, culture, language, political system, and business systems. Also, in the sharing of development costs and or risk with the local partner. Now, there are 2 possible disadvantages. One, in the case of licensing, a company runs the risk of losing control over its technology to its venture partner. And 2, because control is shared with the partner, the company may lose control over its subsidiaries. And the last one is wholly owned subsidiaries are an independent company owned by the parent corporation. This is the most costly method of serving an overseas market. Hopefully this mini lecture was helpful, and have a good one.